Hello, LinkedIn friends. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm Dorie Clark, and I am here with my good friend Ron Carucci. This is an exciting week. We are celebrating in the midst of our respective bi-coastal lockdowns. I'm in New York, and Ron is in Seattle. But we are celebrating because I signed a book deal, which I just announced recently. I'm going to be doing a book with Harvard Business Review Press about the power of long-term thinking. And Ron, our man of the hour, has also signed an amazing book deal. And so today we are going to be talking with him and also taking your questions about his process over the past 5 years in really becoming a recognized expert and all the great things that he's done along the way. Ron is the managing partner at a consulting firm called Navalent. He is a contributor to the Harvard Business Review and to Forbes, and he now has this awesome book deal, which we are so excited about. So Ron, start us out here. Let's get to the good stuff. What is your book about, and what's the deal?
Dorie, great to be with you. I counted this is my fourth time in the Dorie Clark hot seat. I'm getting used to it now. It's a great hot seat to be in. Congrats on your book deal. That's so exciting. We'll have to sort of share parallel writing stories or do writing studios together. So this is based on a 15-year longitudinal study we did starting 2 years ago on what it means for organizations to behave honestly. What is it? Under what conditions will people behave justly, fairly, and honestly, and under what conditions won't they? We've all known intuitively that 5,000 people didn't wake up at Wells Fargo one day and go, hey, here's an idea. So I wanted to know, how do we get more organizations where people, their sense of purpose really matters, and the words the company says about themselves are actually matched in their actions? So we had 3,200 interviews we analyzed. I talked to experts all over the world in ethics and neuroscience and behavioral science and executives running great companies to understand what factors create companies people are proud to work for. And the book is called, to be honest,
great title,
Leading Through the Power of Truth, Justice, and Purpose. And it will come to the world next spring.
Oh, that's so fantastic. Congratulations on that. And in fact, a piece of this, I just want to give a shout out as well. You used, I guess it was, this similar data pool. You wrote one of the most popular articles of the year in 2016 for Harvard Business Review, and which was about what great managers know and do. Can you just tell us a little bit about that in case folks want to?
So we
learn about that.
A 10-year study reveals what great executives know and do. And in the world of recognized expert, it's an important story because we didn't know what to do. We published the research. It was for my last book, Rising to Power. And we used IBM Watson. We used this phenomenal AI technology to do really forensic looks at data. And when we published the research, we thought it was cool. We didn't really know what was going to happen. And it blew up. It became one of the most popular articles that year on on HBR. I was skiing in Canada when it happened. My Twitter, everything blew up, and very early in my recognized expert journey, and I didn't know what to do. We were like, "Wow, this is cool. I'm sure we should be doing something right now. This probably is really important that this is happening." And I watched this phenomenal opportunity fizzle out because I wasn't prepared for that. So lesson learned, that won't repeat that mistake. And so this time around, we published the research first and got another great response in HBR and a lot of good wide readership in advance of the book to learn a painful lesson from, when those great moments hit, you have to be ready to capitalize on them. And when you're not, it can be really unfortunate.
Yeah, so you raise a really important point, Ron. And by the way, I'll just mention for those of you watching this, if you are interested in learning more great insights from Ron, make sure to open a new window in your browser, follow him in LinkedIn. And also, if you're not following me for that matter, open your new browser and click follow on my LinkedIn profile. If you are already following me and you want to get great weekly content from me, which is distinct from my email list, I do have a LinkedIn newsletter that you can subscribe to, and new content comes out once a week. I'll also mention things like upcoming live streams, and you can go to dorieclark.com/LinkedIn and you can sign up for the newsletter there. So Ron, you're talking about your journey as a recognized expert. And I know the folks who are here are interested in learning more about that. And I'll also just mention, guys, if you have questions for Ron, please feel free, go ahead and type them into the chat box now. Type them into the comments. My trusty assistant, John, is going to be sharing them with me so we can pick out some of the best ones here. But yeah, let us know what's on your mind about the recognized expert journey. But Ron, take us back. We first met 5 years ago. You were in a pretty different place at that time. What was your professional life like then, and how did you think about becoming a recognized expert at that time? What did that look like for you?
So you said it well in your email. You talked about the best kept secret. Well, that was at that time by intent, right? So what I've learned since, which I'd hope that today I can help spare some of the watchers some painful lessons and maybe shortcuts that I didn't have to take, that I suffered from. But recognized and expert, two different things. That one doesn't beget the other, the way you might conclude. I had a phenomenal consulting business. I was consulting to some of the world's most prominent executives and CEOs and C-suite people running, holding the national security of our country in their hands, relying on my advice, relying on my consultation and coaching. And it was a privileged place. And those people became great sources of new clients for us by referring us to their other CEO friends or taking us with them when they went to new organizations. Two really important things began to happen at the same time. That set of people began to exit the workplace. They cashed out early. They were going on to do, start their restaurant chains in other parts of the world, but they were leaving the workplace. And with it, their referral sources and their, certainly I could always ask them for endorsements if I wanted to, but the pipeline they was shrinking. At the same time, the field of IO-Psych, or psychology and organizational work and leadership coaching, the proliferation of players onto the field was multiplying by the minute. It was like mitosis on steroids. So my network is shrinking, my competitive set is ballooning, and I'm invisible. I was invisible by design. These are relationships with men and women I can't readily talk about in the world. So I have to be the man behind the curtain to do the work I do well.
Yeah, Ron, I just want to highlight a really important point that you're raising, which is that, perhaps for a lot of our viewers, they may be in a similar situation, because you can, if you're a reasonably experienced professional, if you're good at what you do, you can go for a while, sometimes quite a while, just purely on referral business from people that know you. But if those people begin to move to different organizations, if they leave, if there's some kind of a disruption, all of a sudden the process that you've relied upon in building your business suddenly changes and may even vanish, and you find yourself in somewhat of a precarious position.
Well, I was. Thus I called you. And I think the assumptions I made, Dorie, around what that pool of network, I have people in my firm who've done a marvelous job continuing to cultivate and build their network beyond the core set of executives who've relied on us for a long time. I didn't. I thought I was doing thought leadership work. I'd written 7 or 8 other books. I occasionally publish. It wasn't a steady stream of ideas. But suddenly the ability to get myself recognized as an expert and I was blessed. I had 35 years of experience. I didn't have 5 years of experience 7 times. I really had a body of work that I was proud of, that I had never promoted. But to the naked eye of upcoming executives, the million of us all look the same. So the notion of how to stand apart in that crowd and get my ideas recognized as ones that could help, not only did I not have any clue how to do that, the clues I did have were wrong. The assumptions I did make about if you build it, they will come, or surely anybody can tell the difference between that person and this person. It was all, it's a noisy, crowded world out there. And when you're just, it wasn't like really starting over in my career, but in a sense of understanding how to become recognized. So I had a huge expert muscle and a tiny little recognized muscle, really imbalanced. And those are different worlds. The rules for recognition and the rules for expert are different. How you're adjudicated is different. And I had no idea. And I think if people who are beginning that journey, people who are beginning the work of, maybe they come with a lot of expertise and now they got to work on the recognized part, just prepare yourself that it's a different journey. And don't expect the way the world sees you as an expert to them to see you that way right away in terms of recognition to the competitive set they're comparing you to, because that's just not realistic. And I think that when I stopped fighting that, the journey became a little bit less complicated and painful.
I think that's a really important point, Ron. And I just want to say hi to some of the people who are joining us. Welcome to you guys who are coming in here. We have Sue Yoon from the University of Missouri. We're glad to have you here. Fred's in from Las Vegas. We have a friend, Fred, from the Recognized Expert community. Joe, our great university dean from Stanton, Virginia. Our Recognized Expert friend, Joe Sprangle. Carlos, our faithful friend from Colombia, is here. This is great. Marcus, thanks for joining us. Bill from Switzerland, our mutual friend Bill Zeeb is here. Wilma is here from Calgary. Rebecca, also from the Recognized Expert community, is here from San Francisco, our fellow Harvard Business Review contributor, Rebecca Zucker. Lisa Earl McLeod, another wonderful friend from Atlanta. Ian is here. I love it. Scott's from Maine. So we have a lot of great folks who are on, and we're glad to have you. So Ron, and by the way, guys, if you're tuning in, if you are enjoying this, please like this conversation on LinkedIn, and also click to share it so that your friends can see it as well. If you're getting value from it personally, we want to expand the reach of it. So Ron, I just want to dive in a little bit more to what you were saying. So you mentioned that you thought you were doing the right things in terms of, trying to build your brand as a recognized expert, but now retrospectively you realize that it wasn't really the right thing that made an impact. Talk to me. So starting 5 years ago, what did you start doing, and what was it that actually did move the needle for you in terms of building your expert reputation?
So, if you recall your loving butt-kicking letter to me, your diagnosis, 6 pages of life-changing material on a fateful Sunday morning, sitting here at my desk reading and, keeping my Kleenex handy and my early morning mimosas. One of the things you said was you only talk to people who know you. Your echo chamber is very small, and there's no current way for anybody who doesn't know you to find you. Which was, as you may hear that and go, duh. But at the time, I had no way of understanding that. I didn't understand. I mean, the internet was still, even 5 years ago, was still a mystery to me. In many ways, it's still a mystery to all of us. But the notion of, talking to people who don't know me, for me, writing was a way I solved problems. Writing was a way I learned on behalf of my clients, so I could go to them with solutions I hadn't thought of before. It wasn't a way to tell my story. It wasn't a way to promote myself. So then I had to figure out, with your help, okay, well, what does that look like? How do I go about writing for Forbes or HBR? Those, again, learned muscles. But I think that even generating lots of content isn't even, because now, even 5 years later, this, the ubiquity of content on very similar themes and topics is exhaustive. Not all good, but again, we're competing for the same set of eyes. The thing I think that was the most probably important lesson in the process was to really get almost like a surgical strike, retro engineering things that I uniquely did for my clients. So reverse engineering practice to wisdom, but in a very surgical, precise way, not just general leadership or general organizational stuff or general governance stuff or general strategic clarity things that I worked on, but very surgical strikes of how did this particular problem and by this particular leader in this particular context become a solution that I built, and how do I reverse engineer that to make it a universally accessible idea for others? I think that probably was one of the most important. It took me years to sort of get, I see how to do this now, or I didn't need you to review everything I wrote. But I think that getting very precise and clear on what you want those ideas to be, who they're for, and what it is you want people to do when they read it, because that all matters. It all matters in your SEO analytics. It all matters in the words you use. It all matters in how you frame the problem and solution. It all matters in how you talk about the client and who they are and what they were like to attract similar people. It's not just enough to write content. It's not just enough to put ideas out there, even if they're brilliant. They have to be the brilliant ideas you want to represent you, to invite the kind of people into your life you want in your life.
Yeah, that's really powerful, Ron. I love that. So specificity is the key. I mean, certainly, as I talk about in my writing for high-profile publications course, for instance, if you want to break into Harvard Business Review, which is a goal for a lot of people, being highly specific is key. If you try to write an article for HBR about 4 ways to be a better leader, that is never going to fly. You need to dial it down. So this is great. Questions are just flying in here, people. Thank you for these. Please keep your questions coming. I'm going to start asking some of the questions from the group here, and also type into the chat box. We want you guys to get to know each other too. So type in your hello and where you're from. We're really curious where people are tuning in from. So we'd love to hear from you. So a question that comes in here. Let's see. Okay, so this is great. So our friend from MG100 in London, Abdallah, has a question. Ron, he says, if someone wants to become a recognized expert now, how would you think about becoming a recognized expert in such an interesting time? This is kind of a weird period right now. Do you have thoughts or advice about things that people could be doing like right now in this kind of crazy COVID pandemic situation?
So know it's a great question, and it's a hard one because I may say something a little bit controversial here. Everybody and their sister and mother and nephew is writing how to survive a COVID pandemic, how to work virtually. There is so much content, and so much of it seems to be being consumed. I wonder about that. And so I would actually encourage people to not be writing about how to survive in the pandemic. In the last 2 weeks, I've done 2 HBR pieces. One that had been in the queue for a while, and on the topic of ambition. And I said to my editor, should we probably at least give a nod to the fact that we're publishing this in a pandemic so it doesn't look like we're stupid? So we wrote a little paragraph on why it's important to think about your future during this time, but it wasn't really a topic related to this time. I wrote a second piece a week later on how to answer the unanswerable questions for leaders who are getting up in front of rooms or in front of virtual Zoom rooms and making stuff up they shouldn't be making up. So I had to be authentic. That piece did very, very well. The ambition piece, which you would think, who would read about that now, blew up on the internet. It was picked up by a LinkedIn editor. It's gotten gazillions of views. It did very, very well on HBR. I've gotten 2 speaking gigs from it already, and already reached out for requests to teach about it. On a podcast invitation, on a topic you would think would be of least interest during this time. In my post, I said, this may seem like an odd topic, so I acknowledge that people might go, what? But then I said, but here's why I think it's important. So I would tell you, this is a time to share ideas, but life will resume to something post-pandemic, at some point in the future. And I would be encouraging people on how to prepare for that. We don't need one more piece of content on how to get through a Zoom meeting. There's a lot of great stuff out there, but if you Google it, you're going to get 20 pages of stuff. So I would say people are home consuming more content. I've been told by editors at Forbes the readership is off the charts. They actually changed the financial contract for people because there's so many people writing content. But I think that at some point we have to start balancing that. How many more things can we say about how to work remotely? Aren't there other things to think about right now that maybe are adjacent to this or maybe going to come post this world? That I would say leverage that and share those ideas.
That's really interesting, Ron. I love that, and I second that for sure. We had a great question come in from our friend Lisa Earl McLeod. She is wondering, how do truth and justice connect to purpose? Obviously, these are themes you talk about in your book, and are those crucial for anyone who wants to be a recognized expert? What's your take on that?
So, Lisa, I probably should send you a check for asking that question. Thank you. It's a fabulous one, and that was one of the surprising findings in our study. So everybody's purpose washing today, right? Everybody's trying to make it look like they have purpose in their companies. They're writing purpose statements. They're telling you that it's different than the mission statement. The Business Roundtable recrafted the purpose of a company to be much more stakeholder friendly than just shareholder friendly. But what we found in our research is that there are 4 conditions under which people, to have purpose, you need truth, people saying what they think, and justice, people doing the right thing. You can't have one without all 3. A purpose company that isn't promoting honesty and justice isn't really purpose-driven at all. A company that tells the truth but isn't purpose-driven, well, then something is flawed about the truth or the justice purpose. So what we found in the research is that all 3 are correlated. You have to have all 3 if you want to have one. We have the diversity and inclusion people out in the world trying to make it more equitable, but they're doing it as a campaign. You can't campaign your way to justice. people being treated equally and respectfully and with justice has to be endemic to who we are. You can't spray it into equality. You have all the ethics and compliance people and all the psychological org psychologists trying to make people speak up. Well, telling the truth isn't about just speaking hard things to power or adopting the posture of a big middle finger, right? Speaking truth is an art and a science that requires a conviction. I long for the day where we can disaggregate courage and truth. Because the more we tell people that it's a risk to tell the truth, the more we tell them that it's safe not to. And I want us to get to the place where we realize it's far more dangerous to withhold the truth than it is to tell it. But that will take us time to build organizations that live out that truth and make people believe it.
Ron, that's a great answer. Thank you. So I want to turn to Rebecca. She was just curious, because you had sort of raised this point. If you were to get a viral article, to the extent that your 2016 article on what great leaders know and do, if you had that happen to you today, what would you do differently now? What have you learned about that?
Great question. So first of all, every one of those reactions, the tweets, the LinkedIn following, the comments on the article, the comments on the data, is a new relationship. So just responding, going, hey, thanks for your engagement, or hey, interesting question, what do you think? Or one of the things that was painful was I found in my Facebook, when people write you on a message or on Facebook that are on a friend, they go to a whole different place.
Yes. And
I don't even want to say how long, because it's embarrassing, but a time later, I discovered about 10 speaking requests.
It's a crazy black hole, people. Yeah, on Facebook, these messages come in. You need to know to look for them. I've had that too. Just things that I totally missed. You wouldn't expect people to be sending you business requests on Facebook, and yet somehow they do. So
they did, and some of them are from all over the world. So I would leverage every one of those interactions far more aggressively. In terms of just being diligent in engaging them, trying to strike up better conversations with them, asking them more questions about how the research provoked them or what they thought about it or how they're using it. I found out this week, the book's now 5 years old, that Target, funny story, talk about a guy that I coach is good friends with a friend at Target. They use Rise into Power as a book. He recommended it to my friend, and my friend said, I know the author. In the same dinner, we met, and we have a lot in common, and Target has been using the book. I had no idea. And they use it actually really smartly. They actually have this whole mind map of the whole book. If I had to take a test, I'd probably fail on it. But why didn't I know that, right? So I would have been much more thoughtful about treating every one of those responses as a new introduction, as a new relationship, and very caringly and thoughtfully curated a conversation to see where they would go. As it is, I sat back in awe that it was happening, as did the folks at HBO. It was the headline piece at HBO for like 3 days. They were in awe too, but it's not their responsibility to do something about that. It's mine. I just didn't know what to do. And I knew to be happy, but beyond that, it was like this is someone is setting the table here for you for all kinds of opportunities to find great clients and leaders. And I just was flat-footed.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful, you sharing that, Ron. And to that extent, I just want to summarize some of the questions that have come in from a lot of people. Folks are really just kind of curious about the arc of your journey. So if you were giving advice to someone, who's starting it today, for instance, they've never really been focused on becoming a recognized expert, but they want to start now. What have you learned that you would translate either into advice to a new person, or what would you say your sort of biggest lessons about what moves the needle have been in the past 5 years?
I think there's two sides of that story. One of them is they need your next book now, which is you have to see this as a long view. You're going to read about stats that say, if you start investing in social media or investing in online digital presences, it's going to be 18 months to a return. You're going to see stats that say in 3 to 4 years, you'll get your first really stream of leads after really being diligent about content. Ignore those mile markers. They're meaningless, and you will put hopes in them that aren't helpful. See this as a new way of life. Don't be looking at, the one thing I'm hoping you're going to write in a chapter in your book, Dorie, is something you and I talked about, is called the maybe this one syndrome.
Mm.
We all have that. Maybe this article, maybe this video, maybe this TED talk, maybe this podcast will be the breakout moment. There's no such thing, right? Each of those moments becomes a diligent step on the journey to advance the cause. So be diligent in your content idea sharing, be diligent in your strategies for how you create content and who you talk to and what you talk about. Have a focused swim lane that you stay in. That's all really important. But prepare yourself for the psychological and emotional journey of resilience. This is a long game. Recognition, the recognition part of the recognized expert is a long game. And if you keep looking to your left and right and getting into well, how come them and not me? And it's not about meritocracy. Don't be looking for the merits of your ideas to stand above somebody else's or not. That's not what this is about. It's about people getting to know you better. So I would have taken a much more longer arc view than I did. I was too short-term minded, way too impatient with myself in the process, and to the point of sometimes psychological torture and emotional, torture. Dorie picked me up off of many virtual floors several times with just the maddening process. You have to be ready. Have community, have friends, have a support network of people that can encourage you and keep you in the game. Why is it that most podcasters stop after 12 episodes? Because they give up. So you have to be diligent in the swim lane you're in, get better and better and better. And the one thing I would say is I see a lot of recognized expert types get lazy. They find a couple of little nuggets and they hammer them with everything. And people will see right through that. There's plenty of thinness out there, mile wide, inch deep people who have plenty of recognition, but not a lot of expert. Right? Just because you start pushing the gas pedal on your recognized expert part of recognized doesn't mean you can stop pushing the gas pedal on expert. You have to keep learning. You have to model for the audience you want to invite that you're continuing to learn and get better, that your expertise is deepening while your recognition is. They're two different sets of capabilities and two different muscles, and you have to keep both of them moving. And just accept that the rules in one world are different than the rules in the other, and let it be okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Ron. Thank you for sharing that. And just as a reminder, guys, if you want to have more, great conversations and interactions with Ron, feel free now. Open a new browser window and click to follow him on LinkedIn. If you're not following me, please do so. Please open that new browser window and click to follow me. And I'll mention, for people who are interested in becoming a recognized expert, I actually have a free resource that you can download. It is a free self-assessment test that actually gives you a numerical score so you can chart your progress in becoming a recognized expert. And you can get that at dorieclark.com/toolkit. So dorieclark.com/toolkit, and you can get that. So Ron, we're getting ready to wrap up here. I think we probably have time for two more quick questions. A good one just came in from Michael. He wants to know, what are the most important relationships that you've cultivated in your journey to becoming a recognized expert?
Well, you're looking at her. The thing I would say is, obviously, Dorie's, the preeminent resource for this. You have to have help. Oh my gosh, hiring a coach for myself. I'm the helper. I'm the person who depletes myself in the service of other people's success. It's what I love to do. It's a privilege. But asking for help, it wasn't that I struggled to ask for help. I just didn't know to ask for it. But when I did, and I suddenly discovered a set of people who could give me ideas and give me support and give me training, just because you have expertise doesn't mean you can. The recognized part is a whole different muscle set. It's not the same. Your expertise is a muscle set that's great, depending on, and if you're like me, where they're really sideways, like I said, you keep working on it. But recognized is a skill set. Do not try and learn it on your own. Don't. It's not worth the time or effort it will take to. People can become self-trained chefs in the kitchen if they want to learn to cook. That's fine. But this is your career. This is a public face to the world. Ask for help. There are people who have been on the journey down the path a few steps from you. I find most, not all of them, but most of them are generous enough to want to reach back and give you a hand if you ask. And you'll do the same for others who are coming behind you. But get help. I think if you start writing for a magazine or a journal or other places where you have an editor, make them your best friend. Send them flowers, send them wine, make sure they know how grateful you are, because editors, I've heard a number of other contributors at HBR struggle with that relationship. I have been so blessed to have the relationships I've had at HBR. And you know what? I've done 53 articles there. I've never had one turned down. Everything I've asked to write, I've written. But part of that's because I value my relationship with my editors and the collaborative nature of really refining my ideas. If you want to write for MIT Sloan or some of the more prestigious journals and you have any problem with pride of authorship, you're going to struggle. You have to be willing to collaborate and recognize that other people are invested in making your voice better. You're not the primary expert in your own voice. Don't feel like you have to be.
Yeah, Ron, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really helpful. So the last question that I want to ask you is, what difference has it made to you in your journey of becoming a recognized expert? What is different in your life or your ability to do your work now as compared to 5 years ago?
So I say two things, Dorie. One, I wish I had accepted a long time ago. I began my journey and I chose content, right? So there's lots of ways to get recognition. I chose content and idea sharing. There's lots of other ways to do it. Speaking and, hosting a podcast. There's, lots of them. I chose content, but I saw it only as a means to an end. I saw the recognized part as a way to get more clients for my expert part. It has certainly done that. It has brought me some wonderful new clients. I'm getting fewer sociopaths calling me, which was ultimately the goal. But the one thing I failed to realize till too late in the process is it's also a way to help. Sharing my ideas as a content creator is a way I'm helping the world. It is my contribution in the world. And I think you have to remember that this is a privilege. You get to share ideas in the world. You get to help people that way. You get to help change people's minds, help them think differently, help them see a problem from a different angle, help encourage them at a tough moment. It's not just a means to an end. It is also an end in itself. And I wish I had treated it that sacredly from the very beginning, other than in just a utilitarian way of it's a leverage. It's a new form of how I help the world. It's not just through my consultations. It's a way I tell the world, hey, here's a way to think about this. And I'd say is my view of content creation and the great clients it has brought me through the process as well.
Ron, that's so powerful. Thank you very much. For folks who want to learn more about you, where is the best place for them to get their Ron Carucci fix?
Come and visit us. So at navalent.com, NAVALENT.com, we've got a great library of videos and articles and white papers, blog posts, lots of rich content about strategy, organization, leadership. You can find me at Twitter at Ron Carucci. We have a free ebook. If you're leading any kind of transformational change in your organization or in your life, we have a free ebook that you can find at navalent.com/transformation. LinkedIn and Twitter are great places to hang out and find me. You can find me on HBR and Forbes. So come hang out and keep chatting.
That's wonderful. And folks, for people who are interested in becoming a recognized expert and want to learn more about the process and really understand the levers involved and the things that you can be focusing on, you can download the free Recognized Expert Self-Assessment Toolkit. Go to dorieclark.com/toolkit, and you can take that test and get a sense of where you are in the process. Ron Carucci, thank you so much for the time you spent with us today. This has been really helpful, and I know it benefited a lot of folks.
Dorie, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's always great to chat with you on video. We're going to at some point have to have the best of Ron and Dorie series with all these videos. But thank you, everybody. Good luck to you. Your ideas matter. Share them, and keep up the good work.
That's great, Ron. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Click like, click share, so more folks on LinkedIn can see this. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye.